Thank you very much for joining us here on Urban Debate this evening on Mirror Now. I'm Heena Gambhir. It's a very, very sad day for the entire country. India's first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat, his wife and 11 others have died in a chopper crash near Tamil Nadu's Coonoor. The Indian Airforce has confirmed that Group Captain Varun Singh, SC, directing staff at DSSC with injuries, is currently under treatment at the military hospital in Wellington. General Bipin Rawat, Chief of Defence Staff, was on a visit to Defence Services Staff College, Wellington, Nilgiri Hills, to address the faculty and student officers of the staff course today. Around noon, an Indian Air Force Mi-17 V5 helicopter with a crew of 4 members carrying the CDS and 9 other passengers met with a tragic accident. Reports suggest that the crash happened at a distance of about 10 kilometers from the helipad where it was to land with CDS Rawat. Eyewitnesses' accounts are now suggesting that there was poor visibility due to heavy fog in the morning when the chopper crashed. The cause of the crash as of now is unknown. However, an inquiry has been ordered. Army Chief General Naravne and Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh earlier visited General Rawat's residence today in the national capital, and we are being told that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh is likely to give a statement in the Parliament tomorrow. Now, it was a Mi-17 V5 variant, one of the latest versions of the military transport helicopters available around the world, that crashed earlier today. And leaders across political parties expressed shock and have offered their condolences. The Cabinet Committee on Security meet took place in the national capital. It concluded around 7:30 p.m. Let's now straight away go across to my colleagues who've been tracking the developments on this particular story. We have Mugilan from Chennai joining us live. We also have my colleague Ayushman joining us from outside General Bipin Rawat's residence. Mugilan, to you first. Can you bring us up to speed with the latest that you can share with us? When can we expect the mortal remains now to be brought to the national capital?
The MiG helicopter, which was carrying CDS Bipin Rawat and 13 others, crashed in Upper Coonoor in Nilgiri district around 12:20 is what we are hearing from the local officials, and we have seen since afternoon the rescue operations are underway, and now only hours before we got a confirmation from the Indian Air Force stating that the first CDS General Bipin Rawat have succumbed in that injury, and one that is Group Captain Varun Singh is now being treated at the Wellington Military Hospital, and what we are learning from the local district administration is that the mortal remainings of all the 13 will be first brought to Coonoor, and from there on it will be taken to Delhi tomorrow is what initially we are hearing from the district administration. And the Chief Minister is already on his way to Coonoor. He landed in Coimbatore airport only 1 hour before, and he has already started traveling towards Coonoor, and he is expected to meet the lone survivor Varun Singh, Group Captain Varun Singh, at the Wellington Military Hospital, and we are waiting for other confirmations from the district administrations, because the rescue operations are just over and the confirmation has come. So we are waiting for other confirmations from the district administration and from the Air Force and Navy regarding what are the next procedures that will be done from now on. But what we are hearing from the district administration is that all the mortal remainings will be brought to Coonoor Air Base, and from there it will be taken to Delhi is the initial confirmation we are getting from the district administration.
All right, stay on with us. Let's also now go across to my colleague Ayushman for more on this. Ayushman, there was a Cabinet Committee on Security meeting this evening. Any update that you can share with us, and when can we expect an official statement from the government in this regard?
Well, today, in fact, it was the first time after assuming the office of first Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat was not there in the meeting of Cabinet Committee for Security. Homage was paid to him. The Prime Minister, President, all of them have tweeted about it. When the official statement from the government side will come, that is still to be seen, because we saw Anurag Thakur, the Information Broadcasting Minister, clearly stating in the Cabinet briefing that concerned ministry will be giving the statement. In fact, we are expecting the Defence Minister to give the statement. We are outside the residence of Chief of Defence Staff Bipin Rawat, where you can see the security has been tightened. We saw Defence Minister Rajnath Singh visiting here. The Chief of Army Staff, Narwane, was also here. Because of the dignitaries' visit, the media has been told to go to the other side of the road. So far, there has been no statement from the family side as well, but currently we are being told that somewhere tomorrow, in the first half, perhaps the government will be giving an official statement in Parliament.
All right. Thank you very much, both of you, for the moment, for joining us with those updates. We'll keep coming back to you for more on this. And we are being told that Defence Minister Rajnath Singh will be making a statement in the Parliament tomorrow. And in the CCS meeting, as Ayushman was also telling us, it was for the first time that it happened without the Chief of Defence Staff. And all members observed 2 minutes of silence and paid tribute to all those who lost their lives today. And joining us on the broadcast right now are my guests. We have Mayank Singh, special correspondent from the New Indian Express, and we have Air Commander B.S. Sivaj, Director General Aviation Safety India, Wing Commander Abhishek Matiman, and Squadron Leader Varsha Kukreti, retired, also joining us on the broadcast this evening. Let me begin the discussion with you, Wing Commander Abhishek Matiman. Your initial thoughts today, an extremely sad day for the entire country.
Absolutely tragic, in fact, devastating for the entire nation. General Bipin Rawat was the first Chief of Defence Staff, and that was something that the nation had been longing for over decades now. He was the man at the helm of affairs for the last few years, bringing in changes at a great pace, I would dare to say, because what stood out about the last few years of the career of General Bipin Rawat was the kind of a chord that he struck with the ruling dispensation. The Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, as far as the defense goes, was being guided and under the stewardship of General Rawat. There is no doubt about it. And we had made some big strides in that direction. And we all are witness to that, whether it be the LCA project or what happened in the recent times with the ordnance factories. What differentiates him from his predecessors, whether as the Chief of Army Staff or as the CDS later on, was that he enjoyed the faith and trust of the government and the to maintain with them.
Right.
Overall, in the current geopolitical scenario, no doubts that becomes a matter of envy for our friendly neighborhood, and I have no doubts about that.
Right. Stay on with us, sir. We have Mayank Singh, special correspondent, the New Indian Express, also joining us on the broadcast. He tracks the sector very, very closely. Mayank, have you heard ever of something like this in the past? Because the last I remember was in 1997, that under late IP Gujral, when he was the Prime Minister, when a helicopter carrying Minister of State for Defence, in fact, and 2 other army officers at that time died during a crash of this kind.
During 50s, actually, there had been a major crash, and the entire 60s. There was a major crash, and then entire top brass, including Lieutenant General Daulat, who was Western Army Commander, the Corps Commander of that area, the Div Commanders, they were all, they perished in that actually crash. So this is, and to the extent that recently there was a aircraft crash of the Northern Army Commander also, General Ranveer Singh, the previous one, before the present one. So there had been accidents, but not, this is the most recent one in the history. So, and as far as other crashes were concerned, there were chief ministers like from Andhra Pradesh, good, and from Arunachal Pradesh. There had been crashes like this.
Mayank, can you also tell us a little bit about what have you picked up from the Indian Air Force about what really could have led to this kind of a crash today? Because an inquiry has been ordered, that's what we know.
Yes.
Eyewitness accounts suggest that there was fog. So what could have been the reason really?
See, in fact, when I was talking to the Air Force officers, they were all surprised because this is one of the most modern and of humongous capabilities this helicopter is. So, I mean, they were also surprised, and to the extent that most of our VVIPs, to the extent that President also uses this aircraft. So they all are surprised, and I mean, this is being ascertained. COI has been launched. Various parameters are being looked into, and let's wait, because actually it's a big jolt. It's a big surprise. And I mean, there is an aspect which needs to be highlighted here. You know, Indian Army is at a juncture of transformation. CDS was appointed after a discussion of 40 years. Kargil committee report was on it, 1999-2001. So this is going to be a big jolt, integration, synergy, transformation. Every aspect is going to get a jolt, a new officer, a whole chain will start now.
Well, absolutely. That is going to be a very, very important task as well. But Air Commander B.S. Sewach, your initial thoughts today on what really happened?
Madam, very shocking, very saddening, heartbreaking news. One of the most important generals of the country, along with the number of senior officers, pilots, and other personnel have been lost. So it's a very, very major loss to the nation. Very unfortunate and obviously very saddening and shocking. Now, this helicopter crash took place in the area of near Wellington, Coonoor area, which has got the helipad. General was going there for some talk to the staff college students. Now, this helicopter which was being used is one of the most reliable and trustworthy helicopter, very safe. It is so safe that even our Prime Minister uses this helicopter. And whenever there's a VIP travel by helicopter, very special precautions are taken, special inspections are carried out, special briefing, weather, every aspect of operations, safety are taken into account, considered, and then only the mission is launched. Now, in this particular case, one aspect which I would like to highlight is that Sulu is in plains. Excuse me. Sulu is in plains, and where the helicopter was to land is in the hills. And this area, and the helipad is
Right.
all around. There is high hills and high ground and forested terrain.
Yes.
Now, weather can be good in Sulu and also at the location of the helipad.
Yes.
But in between, in the hilly terrain where the helicopter had to fly for about 8 to 10 minutes,
Yes,
that area may be cloudy, maybe with poor visibility conditions.
So I'm just interrupting you there. We'll quickly fix the audio. There is some problem that we are getting, and we will, of course, discuss about the terrain as well. Meanwhile, let me also go across to my other guest at this point in time, Squadron Leader Varsha Kukreti, retired. Ma'am, your first thoughts, what is it that you will like to say today?
It's one of the days which I wish I could delete from my memory, or from happening only, because General Rawat was a very important person, and he is like an institution. He is the chief of all the defense services, like all families, all members, serving, retired. He's the one who holds us together, all the three services. So such a person, losing such a person is one of the worst things that can happen to this nation or any other nation. Because though in services we are always ready for the worst, even there is always a standby plan. Like if something like this happens, who will be next? What, everything is laid down. So, but nobody wants to go that way. So this is one of the days when we all are shocked. The organization is again, they are all working, and probably it will take some time to, get on with life as usual. But at this moment, it is not very comfortable at all. So one of the worst days, that's what I would think.
Well, absolutely. And we can completely understand the emotions at this point in time. Mayank, I want to understand from you, for the benefit of our viewers, for a visit like this, what are the usual protocols? Because, what has happened has shocked the entire country. The highest officer, ranking officer in the military that we have today, in a chopper, which is of course of the highest grade, which flies the Prime Minister, President, and the top rank officials, crashes like this.
Any machine to that effect.
Yes, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes, go ahead, please.
I'm saying that any machine which flies, and it's a conjunction, it's a amalgamation of multiple parts, can develop technical snag at any point of time because it's a machine. Having said that, Air Force follows, this has to be repeated, Air Force follows a very meticulous check, ground check, before the machine is given a go ahead to fly. And even a basic difference in the sound of the rotor or any extra sound might lead to not giving permission for the aircraft to fly, whichever aircraft that is. So that is how the exercises are followed, and that is how the Air Force tries to look after that accidents doesn't take place. But as I said, and helicopter is one of the most unstable machine. It's most unstable. I mean, it is flying gravity, although, and jet engines, they are a different kind of a machine, and helicopters are a different kind of a machine. So virtually a helicopter pilot is actually balancing all the external forces which are trying to topple it down. But it is one of the most modern machine, and seriously people are surprised. Whomsoever I'm calling to, they are surprised to know of this incident. I mean, it's because of the General Rawat also, who's the senior most serving, had been the senior most serving personnel of the Indian Armed Forces. And he was the advisor to the government, to the Raksha Mantri.
Right. And Wing Commander Abhishek Matiman, now another point is that as eyewitnesses have suggested that, there was fog in the morning, and this is the season when Nilgiris do have misty weather. But, the pilots are quite seasoned who are picked up for a journey like this, for a mission like this.
See, this was a VIP movement. Okay. I have myself operated in that area pretty many times. I've operated ex-Sulur base also, and in that particular area over the Nilgiris and northwards. What happens is, for any such VIP movements, which this one was, all the checks and procedures and the standard operating procedures which exist are followed to the hilt, to the last word, to the minutest detail. The technical staff, before the aircraft is cleared for a takeoff or for a sortie, the technical staff meticulously go about their task, each one having a different task at his hands. They certify the aircraft serviceable. Thereafter, the air crew, the operating crew, goes to the aircraft. They sign the Form 700 and accept the aircraft after having cross-checked again, doubly checked that everything on board is serviceable. What happens is, and what we fail to understand here is, what happens in the third dimension. In the third dimension, like at the face of it, it appears it was a short distance from Sulu to Wellington is hardly about 100 kilometers by road. So practically just about 20 to 25 minutes of flying time on that class of a helicopter, like Mi-17 V5. what happens is over the hilltops, as General Sivach, Commodore Sivach just brought out, over the hilltops, the weather changes happen a little frequently. They can happen over a very short time period on a temporary basis also. Now, when weather phenomenon happen and couple that, add to that technical snag, the problems for the operating crew are compounded, which only an operating crew who has operated in those situations can would really be able to comprehend or correlate with. So if that has happened, I'm not surprised because the crew chosen were the best. They were specially qualified for the designated role of carriage of VIPs. The aircraft which would have been chosen was VIP modified, which and of course Mi-17 V5s are amongst the latest and technologically most advanced, which in the Indian Air Force inventory. So there is another angle of a sabotage which some people have been bringing up since the evening. That cannot be ruled out, but that will take time. What I would like to bring out is we must trust our investigating
What kind of a sabotage? What kind of a sabotage angle, sir, you're referring to? Could you just explain a little bit more? Because you're someone who probably understands the route very well. And, you know, the country is in a state of shock. The country wants to know what exactly happened.
See, that when I say sabotage, that will actually be established only after the final findings come out. Because as far as the Air Force is concerned, they'll carry out a court of inquiry, which is already in progress, which has started. They will do a fantastic job as far as the flying part or the technical aspects to the flight is concerned. They will then corroborate their findings with the available intelligence reports, and finally the version what comes out of it and the conclusive statement is what the government is going to be coming out with in the final stages after the conclusion of everything. This all is going to take time. Someone mentioned on one of the channels that it could be fuel adulteration. That is stretching it a bit too far, because checking the fuel is part of an SOP for any VIP sortie. But there are other methods which cannot be ruled out, and especially the way what I mentioned at the beginning when on this program was the kind of understanding and the trust which General Rawat enjoyed with the ruling dispensation was unprecedented. So the friendly neighborhood definitely had a cause of worry, because the frantic pace at which infrastructure development and positioning of troops, and recently in the last 1 year of the face-off on the LAC, the way we had progressed about it and had gone about handling the entire thing was worrisome to our adamant neighbors.
Right. That's a very important point that you're making, and we'll discuss it further as well. But we have Brigadier J.M. Devadas, retired, joining us on the broadcast too. Sir, good evening. Thank you for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. Your first thoughts today, what will you say about what happened?
Good evening to you. Firstly, because of a little bit disturbance, I couldn't get exactly what the other gentleman was speaking about. It's unfortunate. Really, to call it, irrespective of the rank structure, every accident we always treat in any of the services or otherwise in support services, it's an accident is always, we feel bad. Notwithstanding that, in this case, it's very heavy appointment involved. It's very sad. The whole nation is Cabinet Committee on Security has considered this. You will understand what is the importance of this gentleman. That notwithstanding, that it is he was going on absolutely on a mission that is professional, because in staff college very selected elite class of people, of officers from not only from India, more than 100 countries are there involved. He was to address that meeting, and just maybe a couple of minutes left, he would have landed there. Unfortunate, very unfortunate, but hearing from the local people telling that there was a lot of fog and mist. Maybe the sudden onset would have caused, God knows. Yes, inquiry will only be able to tell.
Right. And we were discussing, in fact, the sabotage angle that was brought out in the discussion. And I want your view on this, Brigadier J.M. Devadas, that, you know, we all know that Air Force, the Indian Air Force, has got an impeccable record. In fact, the helicopter that was selected, that was a tested military hardware. It had best of the pilots. So now, as the inquiry is going to be underway in this case, do the angles like sabotage and, you know, negligence probably are considered?
Maybe, yes, you're right. Nobody would leave when there is such an appointment involved. Sabotage angle is always looked into. And it should be looked into, why not? But given this current situation and the manner in which the incident has happened, at least personally I don't think much is involved. But yet, with the hype of people response that's happening, maybe we are trying to correlate a little far. I would say some incident happened somewhere in Northeast, or some incident happened somewhere in Afghan, or some incident happened somewhere in Sri Lanka, and we try to cope it up all together. And these are, I would say, at this moment, height of assumptions without much of a logic into it, to say, yes, there could be sabotage. Yes, the angle should be ruled out. And that, yes, I think the pilot who has survived would be able to make it very clear to us.
Absolutely. Brigadier J.M. Devadas, appreciate you joining us here on Mirror Now this evening. Let me now go across to Air Commodore B.S. Sivach as well. Sir, you were telling us a little bit about the terrain, and as I was mentioning earlier too, and as Sir also just now mentioned, that, people around that area suggested that there was a lot of fog. But, again, the point is same, that the pilots are trained to, land in this kind of a weather condition. The machine that was being used, the military hardware that was being used for this, thing was also a very solid one. It is able to deal with these kind of situations.
You see, low clouds, poor visibility conditions, and hilly terrain is a very dangerous combination for helicopters to fly. However, this aspect must have been definitely considered by the Indian Air Force before launching the aircraft for a VIP flight like General Bipin Rawat. Unfortunately, you see, the Coonoor area is in plains, but the helipad is located in a bowl. So when a helicopter departs, it has to fly through the hilly terrain, which is another, say, at least about 10-12 minutes. So after that, the helicopter had to descend for a landing in the bowl helipad, which is Wellington helipad. It is surrounded all around by the hills and forested terrain. So during that period, it is quite possible that, there may not be any break in the clouds. And pilot may find some break, some different place. And from there, he decided to descend. And then subsequently, again, he comes across some cloud, because weather in those areas is very unpredictable. There are very rapid changes in the weather conditions. So pilots sometimes find themselves trapped. So that can happen in this kind of, weather conditions, hilly terrain. I'm not saying that this must have happened during this particular case. I'm only trying to relate to the type of flying and the terrain and environment in which a number of helicopter accidents have taken place under similar conditions. So that is one area which is there. Now we are talking about the sabotage angle. You see, in all accidents which occur in Indian Air Force or Army, whether there is a suspected sabotage angle or not, sabotage is always investigated. And finally, if there is no sabotage, then it is ruled out. In this particular case, also, even if there are no VIP as such, the sabotage angle would have been considered and investigated. This being a VIP flight, definitely he was senior most general CDS of the country, and we have our neighbors, China and Pakistan, who are very jealous about our military prowess, our military capability, and our ability to hammer them when need arises. And General Bipin Rawat was the biggest proponent of that particular theory. So you can think of all those lines, all issues will be considered by the inquiry committee team. So no aspect will be left uninvestigated.
Right.
Investigation will be thorough. And also I must tell you that the pilots were selected for this particular flight were the senior most, a group captain and a wing commander, the commanding officer of that unit. So the kind of importance was given by the Airforce for this VIP flight can be seen that the commanding officer of the squadron was detailed to fly this aircraft. So it's very unfortunate accident. Only inquiry after inquiry team will come to know what actually went wrong. But till then, speculation will be always, people will be making. We should ignore them and wait for the inquiry report.
Absolutely. Air Commodore B.S. Sivaj, please stay on with us. In fact, we are now joined by Brigadier Sandeep Thapar, retired Indian Army. Sir, thank you very much for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. It was a glorious career, in fact, that reached the pinnacle to become India's first Chief of Defence Staff. And he, his wife, and all others who were travelling with him today, unfortunately, lost their lives. Your first thoughts, sir?
Well, it's very tragic and heartrending, horrific incident for me because I knew the family. I knew the general personally. We've served together twice. His younger brother is my coursemate, Vijay. So, in fact, so many times I remember in the corridors of South Block, we used to stand and have discussions over a smoke. And I always found him very, very forthright, very far-sighted, in fact, very progressive thought, and he's also very daring and very unassuming. I mean, you could walk up to him. There was no feeling that you were walking up to senior. He would welcome you with open arms and a smile. And when he became the chief and the CDS under the circumstances he did, I rejoiced for one that I knew that a good man had been put in that position, and somebody who would give the necessary impetus and thrust to the tasks which were assigned to him. And he actually proved that. He would call a spade a spade. Very forthright man, Mufat, like as I said. And I've been a spokesperson for the Indian Army, and I had retired, and when he was chief, and I told the ADGPI who looked after the media, I said, tell the chief he should learn to duck a few questions of the media. And that was conveyed to him.
But
and
he spoke fearlessly. He spoke fearlessly.
Yes. And his reply was, he says, I don't care. I whatever I have to say, I will say. So he also, in the present social media environment, he got into a few controversies, but that didn't bother him. What he felt, he was very clear about that. And he didn't mince his punches or... So I have very, very fond memories, and it's a personal loss for me.
Absolutely. Entire country today is in a state of shock and in grief. Just talking about what happened, we can imagine it makes everyone quite emotional. So stay on with us. We have Major General retired D.N. Khurana also now joining us on the broadcast this evening. Good evening, sir. How will you like to remember the Chief of Defence Staff, General Bipin Rawat? Your initial thoughts, your opening comments on what happened today?
Well, first of all, let me convey my heartfelt condolences on this very tragic moment. We've lost one of the finest generals, one of the finest soldiers. He is the one who started from the academy with the Sword of Honor and continued to rise right to the top. And then to be the first Chief of Defence Staff of the Indian Army, Indian Armed Forces, was one of the greatest distinctions that I could have got. And then to be given the task of reforming, restructuring the defence services into jointness, into integrated commands, theater commands is not an easy job. And I think he was doing it with great distinction. So what has happened today is extremely tragic, extremely tragic, highly capable, yet humble, highly knowledgeable, yet forthright in coming out with his views. I think we've lost a leader of unparalleled status, and it's extremely tragic what's happened today.
Yes, extremely tragic, but it's the dream of every soldier that we also can't forget to die in uniform in the service for the nation, and that's exactly what has happened. General Rawat wore the olive green with great aplomb, and there's a lot that we want to talk about General Bipin Rawat today, and of course his wife and all others who've lost their lives in this unfortunate crash. Stay on with us, all of you. We have Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, retired, also now joining us on the broadcast. Thank you very much for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. What is it that you will like to say today? Because the country is in a state of shock. I mean, I am at a loss of words myself because it is unbelievable.
You know, the outset, let me also pay my homage. I joined the nation in the mourning the death and the untimely demise of General Rawat, who's our first Chief of the Defence Staff. You know, we've been talking about integration and the synergy of the Indian Armed Forces. And I think it was after the Kargil Review Committee, after the Kargil War, which came out very, very clearly that we need a Chief of the Defence Staff. And imagine General Rawat came into, he was appointed as the first Chief of the Defence Staff. And it's a great honor, and I feel very, very sorry, unhappy, pained and saddened that our first Chief of the Defence Staff, who's doing a wonderful job at trying to integrate, synthesize, synergize the Indian Armed Forces, passed away for no rhyme or reason, in this accident, which needs to be looked into very deeply. And I'd like to offer my deep condolences to his family and to the families of the 13 brave hearts who were in his entourage. So it's a day of great mourning, very, very sad. And I'm sure the Indian Air Force would look into very deeply how this accident took place.
Right. Lieutenant General Kamal Dawar, appreciate you speaking with us here on Mirror Now. I want to now go across again to Brigadier Sandeep Thapar. You were telling us that, you had the opportunity of serving with him twice. When was the last time you had a conversation with him? What was it about? Anything that you could share with us?
The last time I remember, I walked into, there was some board result declared, and a friend, the present Northern Army Commander, General Joshi, who's a friend, had got approved. And I walked into, he was in the military operation. I was in civil dress. I walked into that place to congratulate him and give him a hug. I did not know that the chief was coming there immediately. So while I gave him a hug and I was turning, the chief walked in. And there's a lot of hustle and bustle. And he looked at me, he said, "What are you doing here?" And I said, "I've come to congratulate." Yes. He said, yes, he deserves it. So that's the kind of, he was very informal, always a smile on his face, and always very, very approachable. And apart from that, what I felt was his insight and perspective on matters of strategic importance were exceptional. I've been hearing what he's been talking on, starting from biological warfare to CI to China to Pakistan. And his thinking was probably a step ahead of the current dispensation. No wonder he was appointed the CDS. And a terrible loss for the Indian Army, for the Indian Armed Forces, I would say, because he had given a certain impetus to the process of jointness and restructuring of the army. I'm sure, of course, the next incumbent, whoever it is, will be that much, would speed up the process that much. But you require a kind of a vision for that work which is there, which General Rawat had in abundance.
Right. And a lesser known fact about General Rawat is also that he was instrumental, in fact, in reducing the militancy in the northeast. And we also know the role that he played in planning the 2016 surgical strike. And I want to go across to my other guests as well. Squadron Leader Varsha Kukreti. Of course, all eyes are now going to be also on who is going to be the next Chief of Defence Staff, because he was India's first Chief of Defence Staff. What a career he had, and a very, very important person for the government, who brought together, who had the role of keeping all armed forces together.
Very true. The thing is that finding a person like that is such a difficult thing to do, because when he joined army, that time it was only till a person could reach only to the Chief of Air Staff. And during his this thing only, he could become the Chief of Defence Staff. So CDS he became. So he had so much of experience, and it's like every experience teaches us, and we become a better and more knowledgeable person. We know how to react within that situation. So his vision was really huge, and to find someone to take his place is like not possible. But yes, there will be people there which have been slotted, and they may try to, but I don't think nobody can take his place, because he was so we all were so connected to him, even from people from industry. Like we could meet him, and he was helping the industry in India, wherein we could supply things to the Indian Army. So it is during his tenure only we've got some orders wherein Indian companies are coming in. So he was trying to build and bring the whole nation together in his own way. And Indian Army and Defence Services, all the members, we are connected in a person who's been in the system can understand. There is only the nation which is binding us. We can any community, any gender, but the nation is always first. So same thing was with General Rawat also. To take the nation forward, understand where is the problem and deal with it. If you watch his interviews, he's never shied away from answering the difficult questions. He was not diplomatic. He was very clear, and he could call it. So I'm sure there are many, but to replace him, I don't have any question, which I am sorry I can't even think of answering.
Major General D.N. Khurana, now, the procedure, of course, will have to also simultaneously begin to select the next CDS. How difficult do you think that's going to be for the government? Because, of course, there's going to be a vacuum, because the kind of career that General Bipin Rawat had, of course, there will be many other officers as well. But he had a special place, isn't it? And what will be the procedure like now?
Before I go to that, I'd just like to go back a little. I think the period that he got as Chief of Defence Staff was a very difficult period, because when you start a major change of the three services across the nation, there's opposition to change even at a smaller level. And here were three different autonomous independent services being brought together into theatre commands. And the rivalries, and not that the services will not go ahead what is planned and decided, but he has set a benchmark. He leaves behind certain criteria, certain structures, certain systems. Therefore, I think we owe to him even much more than that, even if he would have gone after 3 years. I think within this period, he's been able to achieve quite a lot, because you don't hear too much of controversies coming up. But coming to the second point, I would say that these services have a very well-structured system of succession. I admire General Rawat. We will miss him. We will always miss him. But let me tell you, there won't be a vacuum in the services, because we have a system and structures which are in place, and things will move into acting status. But the government has gotten to. I'm sure today the Committee on Security met, Cabinet Committee on Security. They must have considered it. You see, this is an unprecedented thing, what has happened in our country. It's the first time that the sitting Chief of Defence Staff has gone away in a moment, just in a moment. So therefore, I'm sure they will have a criteria. Generally, I would think they will follow the system of the senior most chiefs, generally speaking, unless there's a reason to bypass him. And therefore, there'll be a change in the structure of that particular service. But I don't think there will be a vacuum. I can assure the nation that the services are always geared up for eventualities where we will lose people, key people. Of course, here's the top man gone. So I do not think we should use the word vacuum. I think we are well oiled and we would be able to take care of it.
Okay. Brigadier Sandeep Thapar, coming back to you now, the first CDS, as he was, is a counter-insurgency veteran as well, which he was, and he had served in the most difficult terrains across the country. Tell us a little bit about his career, his journey, because on the show today, you're someone who has worked with him, who has seen him very closely. Tell us a little bit about, his achievements and how he would look at the most difficult operations as they came.
See, firstly, he was from a very distinguished family. His father was also the deputy chief, retired as a deputy chief, I think. But that he never carried a chip on his shoulder. He, from what I saw him, from battalion command to brigade, division, corps, it was all in operations. He commanded the brigade and division in Uri, which is, I think, the toughest place to command a formation, because both you have the pressure of the CIA ops, TT ops, and the Pakistan shelling and firing infiltration, both. Thereafter, he commanded the corps in Northeast, the Dimapur 3 Corps, where during which time the cross-border raids were held. The raids subsequently post the Uri operation was also held in his time as when he was the chief. So he had more than sufficient experience in Northern Eastern Command, both the operational commands. He knew them inside out, which is a criteria requirement for a chief and possibly a CDS. So his experience was immense. He was wounded in ops. He was decorated soldier, much decorated soldier. And he was always willing to, he was a go-getter, willing to take all risks. Do you know that he's earlier survived a plane, helicopter crash when he was corps commander, where his helicopter, Chetak, then fell down from what, I think 40 or 50 feet. Luckily, he survived.
When was that, sir?
This was about, I think, in 2017 or 16. He survived a helicopter crash earlier also. Fortunately, the helicopter not taken off very high. It was probably 40 feet, but still, it could have been fatal. But he survived. So he and whenever one talked to him about it, he laughed it off. He says, "My good luck. The God doesn't want me up there so fast." But I guess the gods did want him fast up there. So this is really tragic. He was a soldier. He had certain convictions, and he held on to his convictions, very strongly held on to his convictions. I saw him in the past 5-6 years, where due to the social media, a lot of veterans and people got after him for whatever he was doing. People outside did not understand the intricacies because he was inside and he had all the inputs. So he was trolled in the social media, and people told him he couldn't be bothered. He says, "I have my convictions. I know what I'm doing is right. Let people talk. It doesn't matter to me." And hence he did get into a few controversies because of that courage of conviction. But I thought and then the other good quality about him is subordinate loyalty. If he were a subordinate, he would go extreme this thing to help you out, to hold your hand in trouble, and that is something which says a lot about a man's character. Everyone pleases his seniors, but when you keep your subordinates happy, not happy with not giving them work or something, but helping them when they're in trouble,
Right.
that is a character quality which is much revered in the armed forces.
Right. Stay with us, Brigadier Sandeep. We have now Colonel Rajan Fatke, retired, also now joining us on the broadcast. Good evening, sir. Thank you for speaking with us here on Mirror Now. What is it that you would like to say today? What are your thoughts right now?
Good evening to all. I am from the 11 Gorkha Rifles, to which General Rawat belonged and his father also belonged. I have seen Bipin right from his second lieutenant days, and the way he was shaping up and coming up in every rank. He was a soldier's general. He was down to earth. And 11GR as such, I pray to God for the peace of his daughters. He has got two daughters. And from the 11GR side and my side, I pray to God, the Om Shanti. And also, he is the first chief who raised and tossed the term of India is fighting on 2.5 fronts. No other chief had earlier said 2.5 fronts, which he tossed it, saying it China, Pakistan, and half front is a militant front. In fact, he was there on Sunday in Delhi celebrating the Bogra Battle Honor Day of 1971 war in 511 GR. 511 is in Delhi. And he was down to earth. He would talk to a Jawan also. He would talk to Jawan's family, understand the problem. He was understanding and he was visionary. The way he dealt Chinese in Galwan, the way he had plans for dealing with the Pakistan, other things. So it is a great loss to the country. And it is a great loss to 11GR as such. 11GR is proud of him. And I pray for the peace for both the daughters.
The entire country is extremely proud of him. Colonel Rajan, you mentioned about how he was from the Gorkha Regiment. You've served in the same as well. And the fourth officer, in fact, from Gorkha Regiment to become the Chief of Army Staff. Tell us a little bit more about your conversations with him, your interaction with him when he was starting his career.
No, Bipin joined 11 Gorkha Rifles. He joined the 5th unit, 511GR. I am from 611GR.
Okay.
So when our unit was in Mumbai in 80-82, his father, General L.S. Rawat, was the Mumbai, Maharashtra and Gujarat area commander. So he had come to our unit for a while when he was served with his father. And we used to interact every time. We used to have reunion or something like that. And being from 11GR is a very small group. So we always have an interaction between each other. And we are a very closely knit group. And we are also proud that we have produced, in fact, the second chief, you can say. First chief, actually, you can say General Jiji Behur was first chief from 11GR, though he was from Baluch before partition and then Dogra. And Bipin was the second one. And he rose to the highest rank of CDS, which is a very matter of pride for 11GR. We are just 6 regiments. We are just 6 regiments as compared to other regiments of the infantry, which have got 10 regiments, 15 regiments and all. So it's a very creditable to him. And very down-to-earth man. When we used to have get-together, as to meet him in Delhi and any other places wherever it was possible.
Right, Colonel Rajan Fatke, thank you very much, sir, for speaking with us here on Mirror Now and sharing with us a little bit about his career earlier and your interactions that were there with General Bipin Rawat. I want to now go across to Major General D.N. Khurana once again. Sir, now the second sad news, in fact, we have got from the area, the Nilgiris area specifically. Earlier, it was Field Marshal Sam Manika who passed away on 27th June 2008 in Wellington only. Is it a very tricky area, sir? Because, you know, this chopper crash eventually had 14 people. 13 of them have lost their lives. We are all praying for the 14th one as he battles for his life in the hospital as we speak. Sir, could you just unmute yourself?
Sorry.
Yes.
I have served in that area of Wellington, and which is near Rooti, for 3 years in the Defence Services Staff College as instructor and a senior instructor. So I know that area very well. As you come up from Coimbatore, you start climbing up towards the hills of Ooty. And Wellington is about 15 kilometers short of Ooty. It's all surrounded by tea estates, which are gradual slopes. There are no sharp rising mountains. So therefore, any danger of running into a hill is out. But the weather over there changes, the climate changes very fast, the weather changes very fast. So it's quite possible that it may have become so cloudy, so foggy, but then Mi-17 is equipped to be able to fly in a bad weather also. So therefore, to me, it appears that it is not the terrain which could have caused the accident. It possibly could be a technical reason which then brought the helicopter down into the forested area and where it crashed like a rock coming down the hill. But as a hilly area, I do not expect that a helicopter Mi-17, which has just flown for about 20 minutes with the best pilots selected, with all the finest checks done on the aircraft, would have gone into the hills. So therefore, the terrain, I would not, as I'm not an Air Force technical expert,
yes,
but as a user of the aircraft, I feel that it could not be the terrain.
Okay.
And also it cannot be the human error, because these would be the two finest pilots that are checked up for the VIP squadrons.
Absolutely. So we'll see, sir. Sorry to interrupt you there. Of course, we'll see what eventually comes out of the inquiry. Thank you very much, all of you, for joining us here on Mirror Now. When we lose someone, we grieve. But when a true patriot, who during his life protected the lives of more than 1 billion, passes away, the grief gets deepened. Mirror Now bows to all the men who perished today to express our gratitude. We'll slip into a short break. We'll be back with more.